Hey, Coach. So glad you found the video. Couple things. First of all, make sure you subscribe and like. Second thing, go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. Let me show you how to put a roadmap and become a nationally ranked coach. I've done it for 30 plus years. Let me help you do that over at teachhoops.com. Let's head off to the video.
Hello, coaches. Welcome to Coaching Youth Hoops. Hope you guys are having a great off season. For those who are in the off season and our friends overseas, hopefully you are just getting started and having a successful season. Before we get started with our guest today, I want to remind you guys to go over to coachingyouthhoops.com. Check out our new playbook and system. It's all basically everything you need in a box, ready to go to have a successful basketball season. So go check that out, coachingyouthhoops.com. Includes practice plans, all the drills you need, strategies, anything and everything you need for a successful season. All right, guys, you guys are in for a treat today. I have Coach John Cristiano from actually right around the corner from me in San Ramon. John is a high school coach at one of the most successful programs in the state of California. And he's modest. He probably won't say that, but I'm going to build this guy up because he's what he's accomplished is absolutely amazing. He inherited a program that had 3 consecutive losing seasons, turned it around in the 6 years that he's been there to be one of the best in Division I basketball in the state of California. He's over 100 wins so far, finished 11th in the state of California this year. California is a big state, has lots of schools, lots of competition. He was in the top 11. Numerous undefeated seasons in league. And this guy knows how to win, and he's going to share with us today what he believes is one of the most beneficial things a team can do to have the success that he has had, and that is culture. So with that intro, John, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today on the show. We look forward to having a lively conversation.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
And what did I miss in all of those accomplishments? How many wins are you up to now? So,
I don't know. My son would be able to tell you, but I don't know. But I think we're in the 160s now. I think we're somewhere up in that range, but I really don't know. But it's fun. It's fun. But I somewhere over 100.
Yeah, so congrats on doing what you're doing down there in San Ramon in the 6 years that you've been there. So we're going to talk about culture today, and you and I had a conversation last week, and I thought, man, we got to get you on the show and share your thoughts on culture. So maybe in a nutshell, just what to you is culture? What does that mean? That's a word that is often said, but what is the meaning of culture for you?
Yeah. For me, what it's always meant is providing an opportunity for a young woman. I am a girls coach. It could be for a young man, but providing an opportunity for a young woman to participate in something and have the best possible experience, whether they win or lose, because of the people that they're surrounded by the teaching and role modeling that they receive from coaches and from fellow players, and from support that they get from the community. So that's always been kind of the foundational piece of what I wanted our culture to represent.
And maybe just describe that. What do you think? And what is the culture? What is your culture at San Ramon High School?
We have a saying that we say almost every practice when we're done, and that is, there are 2 kinds of people in this world: givers and takers. And what are we? And in unison, everybody says givers. And once we proclaim that we continue to be on that path of giving and giving back, then we break our practice. But it's something we close our practice with almost every time. And it really comes down to that. We give of ourselves. We give of our time, of our experience, of our knowledge, of our hearts, our care, our resources to the other kids in the program and in the community.
Yeah, can you dive into that a little bit more when you say give, you're givers? And what is that? What maybe some specifics of what you do?
Sure. So giving to me and being a giver and giving back is about um, supporting other people, about putting other people first,
Mm,
about making sure that others' needs are met before your own or our own are met. Reaching out to people that may be in help, whether they be on the team or not on the team. Maybe they're a classmate. Maybe they're somebody in the community. Maybe they're a younger girl that we interact with in some of our camps and clinics. But giving and putting others first is really what we mean when we talk about be a giver, not a taker.
yeah. And culture doesn't happen overnight. Can you walk us through what you did to establish that culture? And was this idea of giving, did you start with that and like, this is who I am, this is what I wanted to be, and then just
Yeah.
fostered that along the way?
Yeah, great question. So you're right. Culture just doesn't happen because you show up, you open up the door and say, "Come on in and welcome to this great culture.
Yeah.
Here's my smile and here's my pat on the back. Let's go get it." You're absolutely right. It's a real slow burn process. Um, in my background, I'd never coached high school basketball, boys or girls. I just was kind of thrust into this position really by accident. Long story behind that, but really by accident. And one of the things that I saw coming in was the connectivity between the girls, the connectivity between the girls in the school, the connectivity between the girls in the community was broken. It wasn't there.
Mm,
So I fell back on my experience in life, and my experience in business. Um, I've run companies that are $2 million, and I've run companies that are $8 billion in some different in a variety of capacities.
yeah.
But a lot of the things that you do in business or in your family or in your friendships or your relationships are scalable and transferable to how you run a basketball team. I run that basketball team the same way I run my business, my company, the same way that I manage my relationships, my friendships, my family
Yeah.
relationships. And so I wanted to emulate the things that I know worked in life, like treat people with respect, like care about others, like be thoughtful of others, like give rather than take, like encourage people to do more. Bill, I always said the reason I coach is girls basketball was because I was tired of hearing people say to me, "Well, you have to cut them a little bit of slack, John. Remember, they are girls."
Oh, yeah.
No,
No.
no,
Yeah.
we're not cut them a little bit of slack because they are girls. I'm insulted by that. They should be insulted by that. I always wanted them to. I coached because I always said I don't want you to settle. Don't settle for what others think you should be or shouldn't be doing or acting or giving. Go out and go out and do it yourself. So in a long-winded fashion, Bill, the culture was broken here. There was not connectivity. I brought in those things that I knew were proven in all of my life, and tried to emulate those within our girls, and it's worked.
How long do you think it took? And it is a process and it never stops, but at the same time, when did you see that shift? Was
In
it year two, year one?
Bill, and here's why.
Oh,
It,
say that again. You broke up a little bit.
okay, I saw it instantly,
Okay.
and here's why. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't because of any magic dust that I sprinkled into the gym
Yeah.
or a secret chant that we did.
Right.
It was because I was blessed with three girls that showed up at the same time the first year that I came into the program full time. And their names were Anne Marie Santich, Paige Gerhart, and Audrey Baston. They came in as eighth graders, as ninth graders, excuse me. And the timing of my arrival and my desire to change the culture and the kind of people that those three girls were, it was just, I guess you could call it the perfect storm to changing things for many, many years to come, because they were such high integrity, high character, high work ethic people that I shared with them. They were obvious leaders. Obviously,
Right.
they were and captains of the team and whatnot. I shared with them my vision. I shared with them my values. I shared with them how I want to go about this, and I asked them to be on board with me. I asked them to join me and pursuing this, because I think we could do some special things. And that really was the impetus. That really was the change agent that was needed, and the timing was perfect. Those three girls and kind of a new approach, it all worked so well. And those girls passed it on to the next group of girls, which we had come in behind them. And then those girls passed it on to the next girls. And now we've got a group that's there now that have been, I say, trained by their by the previous players
That's awesome.
to be givers, not takers.
And that's what you have to do. I totally, absolutely. You have to get the buy-in from the kids, and then they have to be the ones, the keepers of the culture, if you will, right? And you're just the overseer to make sure that or maybe even just establishing it. And going back to, I think the one of the points that you said that I think is really important is the culture is who you are as the leader, right? And it has to represent you. So if you're not a man of integrity, right, well, you're probably not going to, it's not going to come off if you said, oh, let's give back, when you don't do any of that yourself. And so when coaches are trying to establish that culture, I think it's important for them to say, well, who am I? Right? Because it has to be authentic. So, yeah. And I think that's an important point in establishing this culture. Let's dive in though. So, we're high school coaches. We get 6 days a week with our students. Matter of fact, it was so funny. One of my players is working a camp for me now, and we had spring break, and she's a junior this year, and she was gone for 3 weeks, and I didn't see her for 3 weeks, and we both like, did you realize that that's the longest time apart we've had since you were a sophomore? And we just were both kind of chuckling about that. I said, that's absolutely incredible. We get to spend so much time with them.
Yeah,
it's a blessing. But bring that down to the youth level. You got 1 or 2 practices a week. You don't necessarily have the same kids every year. You might have your son or your daughter if you're coaching them, but your core group changes from year to year. So we got to do, kind of instant culture, if you will. What tools or how should a youth coach think about establishing culture? Just add water, boom, there it is, because they have to.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you're expanding this culture movement, if you will, in your program with young women that you see 20 to 26 hours every week is a lot easier than, like you said, like into the youth group where you're 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, 6th grade, where you see them, times a week, like you mentioned. It's a different animal. And here's where I think coaches that are in high school that want to build a winning culture for coaches that are in youth basketball, or coaches in youth basketball that want to build a winning culture for their girls that are coming up, is it's kind of like the old statement, who do you want to be like? And if I'm a youth coach today, if I'm doing 2nd to grade, let's say, I want to get my 2nd and 8th graders around the kind of players that I want them to be someday. Yeah. So let me give you a great example. We do a reach out to CYO groups and many of the trainers in the area, personal development trainers, and some of the programs in the area. We do a reach out just before the season, and we invite them to bring their teams to our games. So let's say we go to Sally Jones, who coaches a third grade CYO team for St. Isidore.
Yep.
We've been connected with her through the director of the program there, and we say, "Hey, Sally, or Jim, or Suzanne, or whomever it may be, coach. We would love to have your team come and attend and watch one of our practices during the season. Here's where we start. Or we would like your team to come and attend one of our games. We no charge. They bring the whole team, and they bring 10 of their third grade team there, and we actually have them come into the locker room before the game, and they sit and they listen to the whole pregame locker room. Then they sit on the bench while we're doing our warm-ups for the game. Then we bring them out onto the court and hand to hand have them spend the time with us in the national anthem and spending time with the girls. And then they sit back on the bench or warm up. That has gone so far for us where I can't begin to tell you the emails and phone calls I received, not just from the coach, from the parents of those kids that say you made a difference. Susie, Gianna really wants to go to basketball on Tuesday, and she's so excited to be like her favorite player, Paige or whatever. If I'm a youth coach today, and I shout out to those that are youth coaches today, because I know the challenges, but I know the rewards as well. But thank you for doing what you do for our kids. But if I'm a youth coach today, I'm going to go find a program that I want my kids to be like. I want them to be like those girls. And I'm going to go call that coach if she's not calling me or he's not calling me. Say, how can we come and participate? And we want to see you guys do what you do and enjoy that experience with our kids. That's what I think that's what I would recommend to if I was to talk to a youth coach today.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I've seen that firsthand how that pays off. I did it when I first started coaching about 15 years ago. I would bring it was my son's team, his son's CYO team, third grade. We would go to De La Salle, and we would sit with Coach Alaco, and he would invite us in. The kids, his players, would stop as we came in, shake our hands, right, and just basically get back to their work, which I thought was amazing that he did that, and the kids loved it, right?
Yes.
And I did that year after year until I started coaching, and I wanted to bring that to my high school, because I just thought kids really love that. And you're absolutely right. The parents get excited about that, and they think, they send follow-ups, just because it does have a huge impact on young impressionable lives.
Yes.
For a third and fourth grade boy or girl, seeing a high school player, to them, that's the NBA. Size difference, age difference, they kind of look up to them, and they should, right? And I think that's right on. So big takeaway there, John, then, is if you're a youth coach, reach out to your local high school coach, get involved with that coach. Is that? Yeah.
I totally agree. And also get your girls involved in camps and clinics. And I talked to you a little bit about how do we build our culture. When I first did.
Hey everybody, I'm jumping in here. Coach Bill has decided to help me out for the end of the school year, and daughter's graduating, so I really appreciate that. But I wanted to jump on and tell you how excited I am about coachingyouthhoops.com, something Bill and I have put together. It's going to improve your coaching. It's going to improve your player skills. It's for you with your busy schedule, everything you want, practice plan. There's nothing else like this. I'm telling you, very rarely do I get this excited unless I'm walking down Main Street at Disney World. I am telling you, you can print the practice plan. It's everything you need to be a youth basketball coach. It's a roadmap, everything. It's awesome, and it's at a very, very, very reasonable price. I'm on Bill about increasing prices. So if you're thinking about getting in, you better get in now before the next season comes around. But anyway, let's head back to the podcast.
When I first started this first summer camp at San Ramon Valley High School, was in between the year that it was the year before I really was officially my first official season. So it was kind of that introductory summer prior to the real season. And we had 11 girls show up for that camp. And I thought, oh my goodness, well, that's we'll develop this.
Yeah.
Last season, Bill, and when I say 11 girls, that's not for the high school camp. That's for all of them. So I think we had one youth girl show up, and we ended up having to cancel it because you can't do a camp with one third grader.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And 10 high school kids. So
Wow.
it was last summer, Bill, the hard work and kind of the repetition and consistency of our messaging and what we stand for. Last summer, we had 126 kids sign up for our summer program, 8 different high schools, and that includes our youth and our high school program, 126 kids from 8 different high schools.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
That's
I'm very,
amazing. Congrats
proud
on
of that.
Coach. Yeah.
Thank
And again, that's from your hard work. And, at the high school level, that is year after year. You said, the kids carry that down from year to year. Talk to them about how do you do a check on that? How do you know you're still going the course?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we do to reinforce the message to make sure that we're consistent in the whole give rather than take and attitude of gratitude type of thing is I get a lot of negative feedback from in a nice way that after games we sit in the locker room for a while and don't come out, and there's parents and grandparents and some of the news girls or news guys will stand out there and they're standing in the hallway. They want to talk to a player and I get the feedback like, hey, can you get out the locker room a little bit quicker? We got grandma wants to give so-and-so a hug. But after every game, Bill, we go around the room and we talk about things we're grateful for.
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable for us. After the game, we sit and win or lose, we say, what are we grateful for? And that keeps the messaging in the forefront for these kids. They know
that though, Coach. I'm sorry. Can you explain what that? Give me an example. What you're grateful for? Is it related to the game you just played, or is it just I'm grateful that I woke up this morning? I mean, what?
So after the game is done, we'll talk about the game and go through those gyrations, and then when we're about to go, say, I'll pick a girl to start it. I'll say, Tara, what are you grateful for today? And Tara will say, I'm grateful that my grandmother came here from San Jose to watch me play, and it's the first time she's been here. Okay, Sophia, what are you grateful for? I'm grateful that I wasn't feeling well this week, and I had a lot of pressure from school, and Annika helped me with my AP physics, and I ended up getting a good grade. Oh, that's great. Susie, what are you grateful for? I'm grateful that my mother and father have been patient and spent so much time supporting me to have, to be able to play basketball at San Ramon Valley High School and to have one of my best games of the season. Those are the kind of things we talk about.
Oh, that's interesting. And then do you find, though, that, well, let me recap with this, though, is I think this is a great example, even at the youth level, you could do. What are you grateful for? Or even, try the question of whose game did you like today, right? So it's not just about, me being me, it's about someone else on your team. And why did you like that, right? Who stood out today? Now, what about, not that you lose very often, John, but when you lose, right, different locker room. And now the girls, you're losing to Carondelet, let's say. For those that you guys have no idea, the rivalry between San Ramon and Carondelet, so not much of an impact on probably our listeners. But you lost to, let's say you hypothetically lost to Carondelet. The girls are feeling pretty bad. You still do that, and does the mood change in the locker room, and how do you kind of overcome, if it does, that? I'm not really, we just lost, coach. We got to go through this. They're teenage girls, right? So,
right. So sometimes you have tears of sadness and sometimes you have tears of joy, depending on the outcome, right?
Yeah.
And we certainly do lose, and we'll continue to have those games where we fall short. But in a game like you just mentioned, regardless of what the team may be, we would talk about where we fell short, what we did in preparation that did work or didn't work, and what we can improve on. What did we learn from the game? But we still end it the same way. And to go back to what you just mentioned, and it's a really, really good point that I'm sure you do it too. But we also talk about who do you want to shout out? So we'll go to the room and we'll also say, Ava, who do you want to shout out tonight? And I want to shout out Annika for going 6 for 6 from 3. I want to shout out Sophia for getting 12 rebounds and never quitting. And we still do those gratitudes, right? We just are we grateful for, but shout out. And that doesn't change between a winning locker room and a losing locker room, because if it did, you'd really be built on a foundation of sand, because then it would really truly be all about the winning.
That's right.
Really not all about the winning. It's about the process. It's about the life lessons. It's about the love and camaraderie and teamwork that exists with these kids. And bringing it down to a younger group, I mean, the shout out is so good because you can see it in their face. Like, the kids really want to think about, Bill did a great job on dribbling today. He really great job on dribbling. Or I want to shout out, one time we had a kid where we did the shout out stuff after the game, and we had the young kids in the locker room after the game, and we said to one of the young girls, I think she was a 3rd grader, let's just say her name was Katie. Katie, who do you want to shout out today? And she was totally caught off guard, and she says, well, I want to shout out Mrs. Sanderson because she brought cupcakes tonight.
There you go.
Mean, that's priceless, right?
That's
priceless. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Do you do that at your camps as well?
Yes.
Yeah. That's good, because it starts there. And then when they're already going to know the culture if they make their way to San Ramon High School, right? They're all going to be ingrained. Right. And let's talk about winning. And I always put winning in air quotes when I talk about high school, right? Sports, and more and more the more and more I coach, right? You and I live in communities where we're expected to win, score more points than the other team. There's pressure in that situation. And it takes education in my opinion, to help parents, let's just call it out, understanding what winning is. And my definition, it has nothing to do with the win-loss record. It's how did I positively impact your son or your daughter's life. And as young adults, as you know, and I always say this, to my AD, is like, do you think the kids are going to appreciate me now? They're going to appreciate me 10 years from now when it clicks, when they're in a situation where they have this attitude of gratitude, or how to persevere, overcome challenges, etc. Knowing what being pushed is. So that to me is winning. It's kind of delayed gratification for us. Expand upon that. What are your thoughts and how you talk about winning, and how a young coach can talk about winning in their program?
Yeah. Wow. So it sounds so simple, but it really is complex, and it really does fall back on, if winning is embraced as positive, joyous experiences of personal and group growth, and you have that support from your school, if it's a public school or private school, and you have support, continue on that path, and everybody agrees that that's a proper and acceptable definition of winning, then awesome. I mean, that's a dream come true. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Many times they'll say, "You're right, coach. it's all about the experience. You're right, Coach. It's about joy and inclusivity, and it's all about the positive experience. But then at the end of the year, they bring the coach in and go, well, you only won 10 games and you lost 16, and you're doing a great job, John, but you know, we're going to go in a different direction. So that winning, without getting too long-winded, that word winning, there really has to be a level of buy-in from parent for the older group, at least in high school, for the parents, the school, and the coach. I mean, if the three are in simpatico, then it's a dream come true job. If they're not, then there's additional work. But as a youth coach, to me, winning really meant this. My son played CYO basketball before he played high school basketball. And if I was to sit with my son tomorrow and say, what was the record of your 8th grade A team at St. Isidore's? He would say, I have no idea. I think we might have lost one game. I don't really know. But if I was to say to him, what was your favorite memory of your CYO experience from 4 years, over a 4-year time? He's going to say, I know exactly what he'll say. The time that we played so-and-so's team at Dublin High School for a championship game, and my buddy Brian hit that big shot with 3 seconds left, and we won. We ended up winning that game. Yeah. And that to me is the win. It's the win again for me, and also in youth sports is when I see Susie at the local Norms downtown in Danville, someone who was a summer camp for me in 5th grade, shows up at Norms, and she's now in 8th grade, and she comes over to my table and says, hi, Coach, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm so-and-so. That's the win for me, right? That's the win. The girls that leave the program and go to college and go on and do their things in life, I'm now 6-7 years into it. The most rewarding thing for me is those girls that take the time to send me a personal note to say, I get it now. Now I understand. Yeah. And to me, those are the wins for me. It's the impact that we can leave with these kids and the memories that we can create for them that is so far trumps so much more than the 12-0 league, the 12-0 records and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that is the message that, things like our podcast and our Facebook group have to educate the coaches so they can educate the parents and the families and the kids on what winning truly is, and what, let's get, as I always say, we play basketball. Play is the key word in that, right? And play is supposed to be fun and enjoying, right? It definitely at the youth level, and in order to keep on playing and having fun, it's up to the coaches to make it fun and enjoyable, and not so much focused on the wins. And I think about your program, and San Ramon had 3 consecutive losing seasons before you came in. Not very exciting, right? You had 11 girls show up to your first camp. Obviously that's a huge culture issue there. They weren't excited about girls basketball at San Ramon High School. And I would say that, again, looking from the outside and speaking with you, it has 100% to do with the culture that you created. And wins will come if you establish that culture. Would you agree?
I would totally agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. So let's recap, John. If you're a youth coach, you got 1 or 2 practices a week, what would you suggest they do to establish, this instant culture, so to speak, in their program or with their team, really? If they're a CYO coach, YMCA, maybe they coach at their grade school, whatever it might be.
Right. I would establish what a measurable goal is by each player, because they have 10 to 12 players on a youth team, let's say. So it's really not that much work. Then I would establish 1 to 2 goals that I want to accomplish as a team, and I would visit those goals with those kids once a week. How are we doing on left-handed dribbling? Where are we, and how much time are we spending on that? How are we doing on left-handed layups for Susie? How much time is she spending outside of practice?
Yeah.
Billy is a 3-point shooter. He really loves shooting the ball, and he's got some talent once he gets enough strength to be able to do it. How's he doing on that? Where is he on repetitions, and how much time is he putting in outside of camp? As a team, how are we doing as a team? Did we have less than 20 turnovers last game? Is that our metric? Did we allow less than 15 points in the first half of a game? How did we do against that metric? So I'd say that's number one. Have something that's measurable, easily defined, and something kids can do outside of the actual 2 practices a week. And then the second thing, if that's the right thing, the second or third thing, I guess, is I would create a collaborative relationship with someone that I would want my kids to emulate. And I say a program that I'd want my kids to emulate. And there's lots of great programs around here with some really good kids and some really great coaches, actually, that have been very helpful to me, I should say. And I would align with them and see how much time I could get my kids to spend time with them. There's a lot of coaches that would happily come visit a youth program and say, I'd love to observe and give you some feedback, or I'll bring a couple of my kids with me and they'll come and we'll help observe or maybe help you run a practice. Believe me, there's a lot of coaches that would be honored to do that and give back, because that's what it's really all about. The best coaches, Bill, are the ones that are willing to share what they know, pass on what they've learned, and help teach whenever they can, regardless of what team it is, what age it is. Those are the ones you want to be around.
Yeah, John, that's great. And we're going to end on that because I think you just summed that up really nicely. Coaches, hope you had a notebook out. If you didn't, rewind, listen to it again. John just threw down a bunch of knowledge right there. It's not hard, but it does take work to establish culture. John, thank you so much for being on the program today. We're going to get you back, though. So
Great.
Coaches, listen for that next episode coming up. I think we're going to talk about AAU basketball. So that'll be an exciting one.
AAU.
All right, John. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Coach, so glad you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe and like. Go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better.